Join us for another kinetic sculpture build. It's another chilly, overcast Saturday here at the Family Woodworker Channel, and now with the construction of our new woodshop complete, I can finally take on some new projects. I've been wanting to do a companion piece to my rotating flower sculpture from a couple of years ago, maybe with a different set of functioning gears and some sort of unique motion to the main part of the sculpture. So about a year ago, just before fading off to sleep, I focused in on some NASA pictures of the sun that I had seen earlier in the week. I started to think of ways I could depict the sun's undulating surface in a wooden form, including the motion of the sun's rays. Sometimes the best creative ideas come to you when you're about to drift off to sleep. I thought of creating the core out of wooden dowels and colored epoxy, attaching it all to a frame that could sit on a tabletop where the motion could be driven by elliptical gears. Finally, I thought about adding a small moon to the sculpture that could rotate with the gears and maybe even glow at night, as blue moons are known to do. With a variety of dowel thicknesses cut to length, I'd like to talk about the virtues of empty peanut butter jars. With see-through plastic and screw-on lids, they recycle nicely into craft containers for small bits or to hold those loose screws, washers, and nuts down in the woodshop. This one just happened to be the right diameter for a 3-inch epoxy form. And yellow mica powder makes for a beautiful shimmering filler around the wooden dowels. Once the epoxy had cured, I moved to the lathe to cut it down into a perfect round form, creating a couple of different thicknesses to work with. I drilled in 12 holes for dowels, equally separated by 30 degrees like you'd find on a clock. And on the router, I used a half moon bit to cut in a channel that will help hide the ends of each dowel. I'm using 3/4 inch birch plywood for the outer form, also drilled out at 30-degree spans around the perimeter. And those holes will allow the dowels to move through the outer ring. The dowels are 5/16 of an inch in diameter, and I built a jig for my sanding disc to put a taper on the end of each dowel. I also set up a clamp block to center each dowel on my drill press, and the holes will accommodate a thin little pin hinge that we'll see later. I'm also going to dye the dowels with yellow fabric dye. And if anyone can figure out what this plastic pan was originally used for, put it in the comments section. I'll pin the first correct response up on top. The dye actually looks pretty great on these dowels. It turned out to be a pretty late day down in the shop, calling it quits around 7 o'clock, but we're off to a pretty good start. The next day I found a decent drawing for elliptical gears and printed them, and with a little spray glue and a couple of nice pieces of birch plywood, it was time to carefully cut some teeth. The gears needed a little sanding and adjustment to get them to mesh well, but I think they're going to work out pretty well. The cloudy weekends continue, bringing to mind an old joke. Do you know what they call the day after 2 days of rain in Michigan? Monday. I guess that joke could apply to my friends in the Pacific Northwest and out in the UK too. In order to bring motion to our new gears, I'll need to create some drive pulleys that work with a thin urethane belt. This small block of cherry will be perfect for this need. And cherry is just cool anyway, even though you won't see it on the sculpture. With a small hole drilled into the center of the gear and pulley, it makes it easy to line them up for gluing. These little aluminum spacers are critical for reducing friction as the gears turn. They'll be press fit into the gears and then slide into rollerblade bearings. And the paper and spray glue were finally removed with a little acetone. In order to create a moon that would fit into one of the gears, I borrowed a can from a certain energy drink. With some clear epoxy and some of this magic dust, we get, well, magic. With the epoxy cured, I'll need to cut this down into a thinner disc that'll fit on the sculpture. The overcast days continue, but it's another good day to be down in the woodshop. I designed the base out of maple and cut it to accommodate my pre-measured locations for the gears and the sun assembly. The motor shaft is drilled out to fit a 5/8" hickory dowel, and the bearings were cut into the maple frame for the gears. I needed a smaller accent piece from the same yellow epoxy, and a cutoff from this tube will act as a drive sprocket for the sun's rays. I just love watching Forstner bits in slow motion. Controlled destruction. Now you get an idea of how the gears would fit into the bearings on the base, leaving almost frictionless movement of the gears. To allow for lateral movement of the sun's rays, these little RC airplane pin hinges will hide nicely into the groove on the sun's core. I needed to find a way to stabilize the rotation of the hickory shaft that attaches to my motor, and this 1/2-inch block of nylon makes for a near frictionless bearing. The motor I selected comes with tons of torque. It's a 110-volt motor from a microwave turntable. Considering it can turn a 5-pound casserole dish with ease, it'll be awesome for this project. And you can get these from Amazon starting at around 10 bucks. Well, here's an outtake. I tried to use hot glue to attach the shaft of the motor to my hickory dowel. Nope, big waste of time. I wound up using epoxy to attach the motor to the hickory drive shaft in the end. Checking clearances and alignment, I'll use this 1/8-inch urethane belt to drive the gears from the motor pulley. And this urethane belt is simply melted and then pushed back together, taking away some of the length to make it elastic with some grip. I had a piece of 2-inch red oak and figured I should stay with the elliptical theme for the base too, so that people would focus on the motion of the sculpture rather than the structure. I stained the base and the foundation maple in true black. The outer ring of the sculpture was painted in sun yellow, but everything else was finished off with gloss lacquer. Almost as if I was to be rewarded for assembling the sun, that big yellow ball of light in the sky came out that day, and even the ducks stopped by for a visit too. Here I had to add a spacer to the base to align the dowel movement with the gears. The yellow sun rays fit tightly over the pin hinges, so there was no need for glue. Finally, the drive dowel was inserted into the sun core and then attached to the top gear using that yellow epoxy piece and its underside bearing. And the first test after full assembly? Just awesome. Just awesome. Since the wiring was 110 volt, I added a custom cover box to protect the wiring connection. And you can see the gears were bolted through the top and bottom bearing on the base with a 1/4-inch decorative furniture bolts. Decorative pieces like the moon and motor cover were hot glued in place. And my woodshop Lego workers were indispensable on this project. I am really pleased with the way this project came together, and the motion of the sculpture is truly hypnotic. It looks great in the corner of our basement family room, along with some of my other art projects. When looking at those Nautilus gears on my first sculpture and then reviewing these elliptical gears on this sculpture, you wouldn't think that the elliptical gears would actually work together, but they do, and they look awesome. And the moon glow seems to last for hours. I hope you check out our other art projects. And thanks very much for watching. Please help share the news of our little channel. Take care.